All right, so what I'm going to do in this video is I am going to compare my Ohlins. I mean, you can't really call it A-kit, but Ohlins is kind of along the lines of A-kit suspension. This has been valved and set up for me, 205 to 210 pound Vet Pro setting. And I told them when I had it done that I wanted it closer to a pro setting, not so much Vet Pro. I can still ride the regular local pro class, not a national caliber anymore, but just close to like a local pro setup. And then over here, I have my Beta. This was done by Beta in-house. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take lap times with my Lip Pro and see which one I'm better on. Okay, so stock suspension. First of all, why am I not comparing stock suspension? Stock suspension on the Beta is very good. But what people don't understand is the stock suspension has to be covered for a wide variety of riders, right? And when you start to get to that really fast B rider pro level, you're at one end of the usability of that suspension, and it's okay. It's gonna work, but when you really start pushing on stock stuff, you're gonna blow through the travel a little bit. And I mean, that's among any bike, even the Yamaha, which they say comes with KYB, the greatest suspension ever. Yeah, a national pro could go out and race it, but he's going to be leaving a little bit on the table racing with that stock suspension. The Beta comes stock with KYB stuff, also very good suspension. I spent my own money on this Ohlins, and I want to let you guys know, is it worth it dropping $6,000 on a set of A-kit or just having it valved, getting your stock stuff, sending it off, getting it valved? When I talked to Beta, they said that because, at Beta's in-house suspension services, their main focus is Beta motorcycles. So they're only dealing with the Beta motorcycles. They're not dealing with Kawasaki, Suzuki, off-road, off-road motocross bikes, all these different kinds of bikes. Their main focus is to dial in the Beta suspension. So I'm thinking, okay, if that's all their focus is, it should be pretty good. My Ohlins was good. It was a step up. It helped me a lot from stock. I felt like right when I put the Ohlins on, kind of stepped up my game a little bit. And if they could make this stuff better than this, hey, right on. So I'm going to go out. First track I'm going to go to is a local practice track that I have that is really rough. It's dry, kind of sandy, silty stuff, really like big, giant, almost, like my buddy that I train with that rides nationals. He said it's about the only place that has national size bumps on it. And that'll be the first place I compare them. The second place I'm going to compare him at is a little local track that is a little more like what I usually race and ride on at local races. Gets good ruts, has, some little hard hit jumps going into corners, and see if it's better there. So yeah, stay tuned and watch the videos, and I'm going to do some Lip Pro comparisons and see which bike actually suits me better. All right, one thing I forgot to mention is these bikes are identical, okay? Both of them are 450s. I even put the stock air filter cage on because I didn't want anybody, or the air filter cover, because I have holes drilled in my other one. I put a flat one just like this. Everything's identical. Bars, aside from the suspension. So first day on the local practice track that gets really rough, I went out, did some laps on the Ohlins, did some laps on the Beta in-house, and from just my personal feel, what I felt was I had better holdup on the Beta in-house stuff. It was plush on the top, but as it got down into that low stroke, I didn't blow through the travel. On the the Ohlins stuff, sorry about that cough. On the Ohlins stuff, I felt it was very plush. It was very plush, but I was blowing through the travel. So when I was hitting those hard hits, it was definitely a little more holdup than my stock stuff was that was just sprung. But I was still kind of going through the travel to where there was a lot of recovery time. When I would hit the big bumps, I would hit them and it would just kind of, go through travel, and it would take me a second to get moving forward again. As to where the Beta stuff, I felt like the Beta in-house stuff, I was staying more up in the stroke, and like I didn't have to recover on the big bumps that I hit. And I was able to push and drive forward and charge harder. So we can take a look at my lap times, and I'll show you the lap times right now and the difference between the Ohlins and the Beta. And I want you to know, though, between these two, my lap time was the slowest when I had stock suspension. Um, Granted, I expected that. My lap time with the Ohlins was faster, and my lap time was with the Beta in-house stuff was faster. But it was actually kind of a shocker to see what one I was actually faster on, and the reasons why. I'll explain those.
So you can see that I did 8 laps on both bikes. Well, technically 7. The first lap was, just scouting the track out, making sure there wasn't anything weird on the track. I rode on the Ohlins first, so the track was actually a little more hammered because I was riding with a local pro kid that day, Justin Aragaki, and we were doing some sprints and whatnot aside from this. But the track was a little more hammered when I took the Beta in-house stuff out. So you can see lap 1 was 3 seconds faster than the Ohlins. But you never know, I could have made a mistake. I can't really remember. Lap 2, I think I cut the track because of dust. But then lap 4, I went out and it was a 148.16 versus a 151. Again, 149 versus a 152, a 150 versus a 152, a 148 versus a 150. And then on the very last lap, that was, I think I stalled it, but I did something goofy. But overall, you can see on the left is the Beta in-house, and I'm consistently faster on the Beta in-house stuff. And the reason for that is the holdup. I was getting much more holdup. And when it comes down to it, this track is really rough. It has some really big, hard hits. And there has been times when I've gone out to this track and I've ran stiffer stuff, and I liked it, but it did not apply to my local racing. So that's why I want to do it out here. And if it feels good out here, I want to see if it translates to this next track and if I can actually run faster lap times given 2 different scenarios on the suspension.
So I just finished up at the local practice track, and I'm going to explain to you what I felt on that track. Again, the Olin stuff definitely had that really plush initial feel to it, as did the Beta stuff. But the big difference I noticed was the hard hits. I could go through faces faster with the Beta in-house stuff, as to where this stuff I couldn't push through it as quick. I think this is something that I could probably fix with my Ohlins by maybe going up a stiffer spring rate, maybe stiffening up that valving a little bit. But the Beta in-house stuff was pretty dialed from the get-go. I felt good right when I hopped on it. I was like, okay, this stuff feels pretty darn good. And cornering traction, front wheel traction, and sometimes what happens is if you go too stiff on valving but they don't do the shim stacks correctly, what you'll end up is a stiff bike that can go through jumps and you can recover off of jumps fast, but then it has no cornering traction. The front end feels vague. It wants to go out from under you. This stuff still cornered fantastic. I actually felt a little better cornering on the Beta in-house stuff than I did on the Ohlins. But the big thing I noticed was just the recovery. I wasn't going through so much of the stroke on the Beta in-house stuff as to where I was on the Ohlins. And like I said, the Ohlins was better for me than the stock, but the Beta in-house stuff is better for me than the Ohlins. And we'll check out the lap times, and I'll kind of explain why these lap times were faster and why this one wasn't. And there's some videos, and I've shown some videos. And if you slow those videos down, you can kind of see what the difference is.
So you can see here that the left-handed one is the Beta factory service, and the one on the right is the Ohlins. And if you look, it's kind of confusing, but I use the Lit Pro quite a bit. You can see lap 2 on the Beta factory services was a 40, and this is just doing like a normal 6-lap moto. I'm not really sprinting. I'm just riding at my normal moto pace. Lap 2 was a 44 on the Beta factory services, and on the right, it says a 119, so I'm not sure what happened there if I was kind of cruising that lap. But We can compare lap 3 to lap 3 on the right. Lap 3 on the Beta Factory Services was a 44.3. Lap 3 on the Beta, or correction, the Ohlins was a 46.3. Lap 5 is a 44.16. Lap 5 on the Ohlins is a 45.9. Not sure what that is. Hard to see it. And then you can see they give you a theoretical best. So if I hit all the sections, the best I hit them that day, I could run a high 43 on the Beta Factory Services and a high 44 on the Ohlins. So you're looking at about a second difference on a relatively small track. This track is small, but it gets rutted, gets rough, gets pretty technical. And, so I guess what I want to say from this, if you have a Beta, send your suspension to Beta Factory Services. It's awesome. I mean, this is probably the best suspension I've ran in a good amount of time. And, it's just because, not knocking any other suspension techs, but they got a lot to work with. All these different bikes, all these different brands. Beta Factory Services, they got it dialed. They're working with one brand and they're trying to perfect what they got going on over there. So I'm super happy. I'm really excited to race this. I'll have it for my Loretta Lynn's regional and hopefully take this stuff to Loretta Lynn's and, maybe do a lot better than I anticipated. And then also another thing I want to say is basically what I'm doing is pitting Ohlins or A-Kit against your factory stuff. And, there was a guy that went on Gypsy Tales that does the testing for Kawasaki, and he's tested for years, raced at a high, Japanese national level and MXGPs. And he said, the production suspension you get on a bike nowadays is basically A-Kit stuff. The only thing you're missing is the Kashima coatings. So, when you're dropping all that money to get A-Kit, find a good tuner, find someone that knows what they're doing. If you're on a Beta, send it to Beta In-House Suspension Services. They clearly know what they're doing. The suspension inspired a lot of confidence for me, and I'm really excited to go race and ride on it. But, that stock stuff, sometimes you don't need all the bling. You can, if you got a good tech and you can get it done right and get it done for you, it's good. The Ohlins is good. Don't get me wrong. I think I got a little tweaking to do with the Ohlins, but, you don't know what you're missing until you get your hands on it. So, I thought the Ohlins was better, but the Beta in-house stuff is even better, for me at least. But yeah, that's my review of the suspension versus suspension, pretty much A-Kit versus production. Save your money, find a good tech, get it done by someone that knows what they're doing, and you might be better off than dropping, a couple months mortgage on a set of suspension.